Hey guys, welcome to another codeswag video. In this tutorial, I'm going to be giving you a basic demonstration of how to use the HTTP protocol in your Ionic app. In simple terms, that means how to grab stuff from the internet and to display it in your application. Let's hit the intro music. Okay, so when we are using the HTTP protocol, we need to have an external resource of some sort. So an API from which we're going to be fetching data, and then it's that data that we're then going to display in our application. So we need to create an API. So the first thing is we want to go to this website called mockable.io. So in this basic demonstration, we are not going to be using a real API. So when the mockable.io website loads, we want to click here where it says try now. So we're not going to be using a real API. We're going to be using this mockable.io tool in order to create a mock API. So Mockable is very useful. You can use it to quickly set up mock APIs and create any sample responses that you want to create. So it's very good for getting that set up very quickly. Just gonna quickly do the okay, I really hate these captures. Okay, so when getting started with Mockable, here we want to define a new REST mock. We don't want to use SOAP, and we're gonna get this quick tutorial. So it's just telling us how to configure our new mock. So we'll fill in the information here. If we get to the next step, so here we can enable a dynamic response. We are not going to be using that in this tutorial. And here we can start and stop our mock. So let's end that. Okay, so here we have the path. So when we hit this URL and whatever other thing we put here, that is then going to return the response. So first we're going to be making use of the HTTP GET method, and we're not going to be using any headers, at least to start with. And we want our response is going to be 200 OK. Our content type is application/JSON, which is exactly what we want. Content encoding is UTF-8. So all of that is great. Now this is the response body. So when we hit the API, this is the response that is going to come back. So what we can actually do is we can just save this, and it's going to take a while. Okay, so the mock has been saved successfully. Let's dismiss all that. Okay, so the mock has stopped. Why has it stopped? Okay, so we need to click this to start the mock. So we just saved it, and now it has started. So that means it's now live. So it started on this link and this one. So one with HTTP and one with HTTPS. So if we open this link in a new tab, we should get this response. And that's exactly what we get. So Mockable allows us to create a mock API or a dummy API. It's not a real API because it doesn't have anything happening in the background, but it allows us to quickly get set up. So we want to simulate some API that returns to us a list of friends. So we're gonna get someone's name, their age, and the city that they live in. So I'm going to just paste this data in here, and we can see that the response body is going to be an array. We have this square bracket here, so that's for an array, and it's going to be an array whose elements are objects. So we have this one object, and then we have another object here, and so on and so forth. So it's a list of objects. So each object is going to have a name property. So we have here George, and we have an age property, which is an integer value here. This is a string. We have a city, and we have this property for avatar. So this is going to help us in our application to include a nice picture with each friend of ours. So we have a list of, this is the second one, third one, fourth, and 5. So we have 5 lists, 5 objects representing 5 friends. So this is what's going to be returned by this mock API. So let me save this, and as soon as it is saved, when we hit those API endpoints, we are going to get that response. So again, it takes quite a while to save. I don't know why. Okay, so if you open this in our new tab, we get this JSON response, which is a list of friend objects. Okay, so that's great. We have our mock API running. So the next thing is we want to start developing our application. If you enjoy our content, please consider supporting us by becoming a patron. For a small amount, you can support the production of more great tutorials and also enjoy great perks such as early access to tutorials before they are uploaded on YouTube up to 4 weeks in advance, special rights to make requests and to vote on the topics that we will cover, as well as free access to my course, Ionic Framework, Tips, Tricks, and Techniques by Pact Publishing. It contains over 5 hours of material covering wide-ranging topics from UI design to performance improvement to security. There are a limited number of copies that I'm giving away, so become a patron today by visiting patreon.com/codeswag. Okay, so we are in our command prompt. I'm just going to go into my projects folder and clear the screen, and then now I'm going to start a new Ionic project. So of course I do that with Ionic Start. And we're going to use Angular, and our project name, we're going to call that, let's call it HTTP demo. And we want to use the blank starter project. So this is going to go ahead and download the blank starter. Do we want to integrate with capacitor? We're going to say no for now. And that's going to go ahead and fetch all the dependencies. Okay, we're now going to create an Ionic account, and there we go. Our application starter project has been created. So let's go into Ionic HTTP. Sorry, that's HTTP demo. Okay, so let's clear the screen and let's open our project in Visual Studio Code. So we just type in code and then appeared, and that opens the application in VS Code. Okay, so in order to use the HTTP protocol in an Ionic Angular app, what we want to do is to use the built-in HTTP client from within Angular. So in order to do that, we need to go to our app module file. So let's go to, okay, before I do that, let me increase the font size so that it's easier for you guys to see. Alright, now that we're zoomed in, we're gonna go to source here in our file explorer, app, and we want app.module.ts. Okay, so within the app module file, we want to go here to our imports, and we're going to import HTTP client and HTTP client module. So this is going to be imported from @Angular common/HTTP. Okay, so these are the two classes that we're going to need, HTTP client and HTTP client module. And we also need to make sure that here in our list of providers, we include the HTTP client. So if we need to import HTTP client and HTTP client module, and include HTTP client in the list of providers. So we're gonna press Ctrl S or Command S on a Mac in order to save. And then the next step is we want to go to our homepage.html. So we're gonna open the Explorer here, and here on home, we're gonna go to home.page.html. So in our home.page.html, we want to get rid of, I want to get rid of this header here, and I also want to get rid of this content right here. Okay, so here we've finished creating our HTML. So basically we're gonna have an Ion button, and when we click on that button, we're gonna run our HTTP method. So this is going to run the HTTP call to our API. And we are gonna have a list of items, and then for each item, we're gonna first have an avatar, and then we're gonna have the person's name, their age, and the city that our friend lives in. So here you can see that I've hard-coded all this stuff, the name, age, all of that stuff. So I'm gonna make it dynamic in a second, but what I want for now is for us to see what it looks like. So let's run the app in our browser and check it out. So to run it in our browser, we're gonna type in the command ionic serve. Okay, if we go into the mobile app view, then we can see what it looks like. So we've got the person's name and the age and the city that they're in, right? So this is going to be our list. Okay, so we have it there on our screen. I think let's go back to the code editor, and I just want to make a few changes. It's not really looking very nice here. So I'm gonna go back to the code editor, and I just wanna make a few changes. So here let's have everything in one line. So I want to put in a non-breaking space. So we do that by putting the ampersand sign and NB SP and a semicolon. And let me put a hyphen there, and I'm just gonna copy this and have this non-breaking space as well. Okay, so we're gonna have that hyphen, and then we're gonna have the age and then the city. So let's put non-breaking space, hyphen, non-breaking space, and the city. So all of this is in one line, and it's going to be spaced out much better. So let's save that and go back to the application. And there we go, George 46, Minneapolis. Okay, so this is the hard-coded stuff. So this is what it's gonna look like. But of course, I need to put in variables, because remember, we're going to be getting this information from our mock server. So in order to do that, in Angular, there is the concept of interpolation, where you can dynamically put in values in your HTML template. So what I'm going to do is, okay, first of all, I'm going to come up here and dynamically allocate the avatar. Okay, perhaps let me explain this first. There's this service called API. There is this service called adorable.io, which allows us to dynamically create avatars. So you just pass in a random number here, .png, and it will generate a nice avatar for you like that one there. Okay, so here if you remember, we have the number for our avatar in our API. So we're going to interpolate that using Angular interpolation. So this is going to be our friend's avatar. So we're gonna put in friend.avatar, that's friend singular, and here for the name, we're gonna get rid of that, and this is going to be our friend.name. Here, this is gonna be friend.age, and finally we're gonna put in friend.city. Okay, so also up here, since this is a list, it's going to be dynamically generated from the result that comes from our API. So in Angular, we use a for loop. So the syntax is like so, ngFor, and we're gonna say let friend of friends. Right, so what this means is that when we run the HTTP method, we are going to get a list. If you remember that list of friends, let's go back to it. If we are back here, you'll see we have this list of objects, right? So we're calling this friends, this list that we get back. So we're saying let friend of friends. So each friend is going to represent one object, right? So essentially what we're saying is let one object of the object list being friends, and then the object becomes friend. So then when we say friend.avatar, it's going to grab, so in each object, so this is the friend and this is the friends list. So we have the friend. So the friend.avatar here is going to be 145. the friend avatar here is going to be 796. So what it does here is for each iteration of the loop, as it's looping through this list, it's going to say let friend of friends. So friend.avatar for the first pass in the loop is going to be this one. Friend.name will be this name here. Friend.age here, and friend.city is going to pick it from here. And then when it's done creating for the first item, and then it will loop into the second item here. So it will once again make another Ion list and then fill it in with the same information. It will fill in the avatar, it will fill in the friend name, which in this case is Sandhya, and it'll put in the age and city, and then for the third one, and so on and so forth. So that's how we create a loop within our HTML templates in Ionic Angular. Okay, so I think that's ready for dynamic allocation of data. So let's press Ctrl S to save, or Command S on a Mac. Let's check out what it looks like now in the browser. Okay, so you see we have nothing on our screen. That's because there's nothing to loop over. If we look here, we haven't really implemented this, we haven't implemented this, that method, so there is no friends array to loop over, but we're gonna fix that in a second. Okay, so there's nothing, so we need to now create that method. So if we go to our file explorer and we go to homepage.ts, and let's close that. Okay, so this is the place where we will implement the code that is going to do the actual fetching of data from our API using the HTTP protocol. So in order to do that, we have to first import the HTTP client. Okay, so we've imported the HTTP client, but we now also need to bring it into our constructor. So to do that, we just create a private variable, calling it HTTP, and it's going to be of type HTTP client. Okay, awesome. Now we need to create the run HTTP method, this one that we are running, that we are supposed to run when we click on that Ion button. Okay, so we just type run HTTP. So each time we click on run HTTP, it will run this method. And each time we run this method, we want to make an HTTP call to the mock API that we created. So to do that, we type this, which is referring to this class right here. And we have HTTP there, it's already showing. So this and HTTP, and then we want to use the get method, right? So we're gonna use HTTP get, and HTTP get accepts multiple parameters. The first one being the URL in the form of a string. So we're gonna do that. I'm gonna leave it blank for now. But when we've done the HTTP get, we're then going to subscribe to the response. And when we've subscribed to this response, we're gonna get some data back. And after we get that data, we then want to do the following with it. Okay, so we've got the data back. So the first thing is let's just console.log that data that we get back. So here we are supposed to put the URL to our API. Let's go back to the browser And here we are. And our API URL is right here. So I'm going to copy this link address and go back to the text editor. Okay, so back in the text editor. So I'm going to paste that in. So what this is going to do is it's going to use the HTTP protocol, and it's going to run a GET request on this URL. This is equivalent to simply opening your browser and pasting in the URL. So we're supposed to get a response like this. That's what we expect. So let's go to our app in the browser. Okay, so let me just refresh. Okay, so something is wrong. Let me pause the video and investigate what's wrong. Okay, so there's something wrong and I've figured out what it is. If we go to the browser, you'll see that the screen is suddenly blank and nothing is rendering. And if we go to our code, what I forgot to do was in app module TS, here we have our HttpClient module. We're supposed to add it to our imports. Right here where it says imports, we're supposed to put in HttpClient module. And you'll notice that as soon as I save this, it will refresh and our application will render. So when we click run HTTP, an HTTP call is going to be made in the background, and we have our response logged here from line 16, and we can see we have the list of 5 friends with their age, avatar, city, and name. So that's great. The code is working as we expect. Let's go back to our TypeScript file, and in home.page.ts, let's have an array. We're going to call this friends, and our friends array is where we want to then attach the data that is returned. Okay, so this dot friends is going to be equal to the data that comes back from, okay, not assignable. Let me look into this pretty quick. Okay, so here I'm just supposed to make this equal to a type of any, and it's going to be a blank array, and now everything is working as expected. Okay, so let's save this, go back to our application, and when we run HTTP, we then get a list of all our friends. There's a slight delay there where it's downloading the different avatars for everyone, but you can see the list of friends that we set up in our API: George, Santiago, Nomsa, James, and Kalena. So this is basically how you make use of the HTTP protocol in your Ionic Angular application. If you like our content and would like to support us, please head over to our online store at codeswag.co.uk/shop. We sell a range of awesome tech gadgets, including this super fast 2TB NVMe SSD drive from Samsung that'll have your PC performing at its best. We offer fast shipping worldwide, so head over to codeswag.co.uk/shop and buy today. But as far as this basic introduction to HTTP in Ionic Angular, that's it. Thank you very much for watching.